Hi everyone, and welcome to another Radio Culturale show. We're still with our theme of culture, and today we're talking about cultural hospitality. So before we start, I'm just going to get everyone to introduce themselves. We have a couple of ambassadors from our office. We have Hong again, who will be here with us, and I guess that you'll be learning a lot of stuff regarding culture from Vietnam and also from Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm from. But I'll get the other two students to introduce themselves and to tell us a way in their own culture how they greet someone formally and someone informally. So we'll start with Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I am half Ecuadorian, half Canadian. I grew up in Ecuador until I was 18. I was born there, and I just moved to Canada last year to study here in Guelph. And a way that we greet each other in Ecuador is usually people will give a kiss on the cheek, whether you know them or not. It's always proper to give everyone in the room or whoever you're meeting a kiss on the cheek when you meet.
Hi everyone, I'm Sukhman. I'm from India, and I've been Indian and greeting everyone the way Indians do until I came to Canada last year, and now I'm getting into those North American traits of greeting everyone. But traditionally, being an Indian, the way you're supposed to greet everyone is you fold your hands and you greet everyone, or you just give them a hug and be polite to them, as polite as you can.
Okay, and Hong?
Hello, my name is Hong Lam, and I'm from Vietnam. And one interesting way that we greet each other is there are different levels of greeting people and saying hello depending on your age and your status. So if you're greeting a friend, as in like someone your age, it's different from greeting someone who is, say, older than your parents or younger than your parents. So there's a lot of levels introducing that, and I'm not even going to get into detail with that. But yeah.
Okay. And well, in Trinidad and Tobago, it's a Caribbean island, and everyone knows that things are pretty laid back. So we greet in various ways. So again, formally, you should be as respectful as possible, especially with someone older than you. So especially, again, if it's a teacher or your parents' friends or things like that. But for informally, it could be hugs, it could be we don't really kiss, but maybe you can get a kiss on the cheek, but just various ways. Again, you say what's going on, you'll say like wam now. So then that's the various ways that we all greet. So we are talking about cultural hospitality, and maybe we can define that before we get into more about that. So what would you consider cultural hospitality?
What I think cultural hospitality is basically the way you're supposed to react when you meet someone of your age, your elders, the ones you're younger to you, and the way you just meet them formally or informally, and yeah, just basically about that. And I think hospitality varies with the culture, with the region and the city, or definitely with the country. Mm-hmm. So that really defines, I think it defines the personality of a person, because if you're grown up following one culture and used to of greeting people in one way, and when you move from your place to some other place, then the most important or the foremost thing that you need to learn is how to greet people, because from my personal experience, that the first thing that you need to learn just to make friends or to be good in people's eyes and thinking that you don't hurt anyone.
That's very good.
In my perspective, I would say that cultural hospitality is just the way members of a group or a community, like Sukhman said, it can be different from provinces or cities, just how they greet people or new people that come into the group, whether that be a foreigner or someone that they've just met that is within the group. And I haven't really encountered any culture that hasn't been hospitable. So yeah, it may vary between different cultures, but it's just how a culture or a group just welcomes an individual into their group.
Yeah. Okay. So as you were saying, again, as Sarah said, that people are generally hospitable, like different cultures are hospitable. So there are many cultures have similarities in ways that we do certain things. So, for example, when a guest comes, obviously you would serve them food and drinks, right? What would make each culture, I guess, different or distinct in this specific action, for example?
I suppose that I think that in terms of the example that we have of serving food and drinks, I guess it depends like the regional, like what kind of food or drink that you serve. So in my mind, when you think of food and drink, for Vietnamese, it's tea. So we just serve green tea, mostly green tea to our guests and everything. And I don't know, but yeah, that's one.
I do believe that there are similarities in the way you're hospitable to the guest that comes into your house, or you meet someone out, or whatever it is. But I think there are various differences to that too, because the way you definitely serve food and drinks to the person who comes into your house, but I think the difference lies the way you serve them and what you serve them, and how the guest, like in some cultures, what I've experienced is it's considered rude if someone offers you something when you go to their place and you say that, okay, no, I don't feel like, or something, and I'm not hungry, so I don't want food or something. So I think according to some cultures, you still have to have a bed, and so that your host, he doesn't feel bad.
Yes.
So that's the thing I think that make differences,
right,
in the hospitality with different cultures.
Okay.
Like all of you have said, it's very in different cultures, obviously, like you give food, it's very common to offer drinks or food, but specifically, like from my experience with Latin American culture, when we've had a guest at our house, it's always like all the focus goes toward the guest, and you kind of, like within a family, your family kind of forgets that you are also living in the house, because they focus on making the room for the guests like looking very good, and like the house has to be presentable and the food has to be the best, so all the focus is placed on the guests. And it's just like it culturally varies, I guess, on, like Sukhman said, like how much focus is placed, I guess, on the guests. Like some cultures won't, not that they don't value the guests, but they won't put as much of an emphasis on the guests. Like they'll have them for dinner, and like the guests will sometimes help clean up or things like that. But in Latin American culture, it's very much like, no, you're a guest. Like they get treated like a king pretty much, because it's kind of like they're there on vacation or whatever. Like even though if they're not there on vacation, like they will get treated like they are royalty, because it's not their house and they are the guest.
And I don't know specific culture to say, but I've heard this before, that in some cultures it's kind of rude to show up to someone's house without bringing something to eat, right? So that's another swing on things. I mean, it's not that the host is not presenting anything, not going to serve anything, but it's expected that the guest comes with something as well. So it's a bit different.
That is true.
Yeah, so I mean, we seem to know a lot about our home cultures. Are you aware, like yourselves personally, are you aware of some of the other, the differences in culture? And I guess the main point of this is just being aware of various cultures and embracing them, right? Because that helps us to be hospitable to others. So have you experienced other cultures, and what are some of the major differences that you may have seen from your own culture? And it could be this example, or it could be any other examples you think about.
When I was smaller, I went to my Korean friend's house for like a sleepover, and the day after, her mom took us out for dinner, and she ordered a lot of food. And my friend was like, she never does this, it's only like when we're with guests, or like when we have a guest, like she'll get lots of food. But it got to a point that like I literally could not eat more, because I was so full and there was so much food. And I think her mom went up to go get something from the car or something, and I told my friend, like, I can't eat more, like is it okay if I don't eat, because I feel rude if I don't eat like what she's ordering. And she was like, no, like you have to finish eating, or like it's really rude if you leave food, like my mom will get mad at you if you don't finish your food. So like she kept on ordering more and more food, and like I had to, it was good, but I was really full. But yeah, I had to eat it all because like I didn't want to be rude either to her mom. Like she's buying us all this food and I'm not gonna eat it.
Yeah.
So you got informed of that culture and you just kind of had to play along because you didn't want to insult, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like Sarah said, the thing that I experienced was like in Indian cultures, you have to finish what you serve for yourself in your plate, because if you leave food, that's considered rude and disrespectful towards food, because they think that there are so many people in the world who die of hunger and it's really disrespectful to throw away food.
Right.
So when I came here in Canada, so what I've experienced in various cultures is they have so huge servings that if you try to finish up everything, I think you'll gain like 10 kgs a month or something. So when you get into that situation, okay, do I need to finish all this, or is it okay if I leave it, or should I not? Will the host feel bad about that or not? So I think that is pretty much one of the issues, that the differences where they lie, which you should be aware of.
Right. So did you, how did you feel when you saw people leaving food behind, coming from somewhere you had to finish stuff? Did it bother you? Did you think about the hungry?
In the beginning it did, because even I started doing that, and especially when you go to buy groceries, I don't really need such a huge bread for
yourself.
But then, either have to finish it or I shouldn't buy it.
Right.
So that's the thing, because I don't believe in wasting food, and since I was a kid, I used to get scolded from my grandfather, who used to be like, you just have to finish whatever you put in your plate, otherwise just don't put that much, you can always help yourself with the second serving. Yeah.
That's really interesting too, because I know that I don't know. I feel it's for Asian countries mostly, like East Asian countries, that it's disrespectful to the guest that if they run out of food. So the whole point is that you have to continually serve them food, so that you're not allowed to we have a pot cooker at home, and if it's a really big problem if we have a guest over and you're scraping the bottom of the pot, and you can hear it, and it's just like, you can't have the scraping of the rice pot to the guests, and you have to have a really full, enough, even more than what is needed for the guests. So it's a really huge opposite, so that might be a problem if we
No, but then even in my culture, what you do is, if you have a guest coming home, then you have to make so much of food. If you have to make so many of starters, and then you make the main course, and then you serve drinks, then desserts, and it has to be 2-3 types. But the thing is, when you serve for yourself in your plate, if you need just a bit of that, and you can't eat more than that, you should have just a bit. If you like it or you feel it having more, you can always help yourself with 4 or 5 or how many servings you like. That's not considered rude, because I know some cultures, this is oh my God, how much does that you need your food again and again. You're filling up your plate, but then they don't mind to fill up your plates, but at least because if you have them in your bowls or something, you can eat up the next day, or someone else can eat it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, because some people don't like to go back for seconds, because that is probably rude, right? So you look like you're greedy.
That's always weird too, because I've always had people I went into a house where it's you have everything on one plate, and that's your serving. That's all you're gonna get for that. And so I thought that was really interesting. It was just okay, I feel weird if I'm going for a second.
Exactly, and these are things that we should be aware of, becoming more global citizens. So being from different countries and going to different places, just being more aware of the different ways that we may insult someone or not look good in their eyes because we're not aware of the culture. I know in the generations past, people were very, very traditional, and I think these days the way that we greet people, we are very aware of the way that we should greet, especially in a formal setting. But I don't know, I feel like in some countries or in some cultures, if the people of the past saw the way that we are doing things right now, they probably think they're very rude. And I don't know if you guys think about that. Yeah,
that's the truth. I think in every culture, the 1 or 2 generations back. They feel that if you try to globalize or learn other cultures, they feel that you're ignoring your culture.
Right.
So, but they have to understand that this is the time of globalization, and there's nothing wrong in embracing other cultures or learning about them, because it just increases. I mean, it just makes an impression that being from your culture, it's just you are still respecting other cultures, which indirectly increases the respect of your culture in other people's eyes, what I believe.
Right. Yeah. I remembered this minister, like a Christian minister, was taking a group of her parishioners over to, I can't remember what country it was, but she was saying it doesn't matter whatever they serve, you need to eat it. I was just thinking about some of the things that I probably wouldn't want to try. But again, I think that, there are people who really tried, they make the effort to at least educate their group on, being hospitable in various ways. And again, as you were saying, we shouldn't be too close-minded again, because this is what we're doing. This is the world, and we're intermingling. So we really need to be aware. We can hold on to our own values. Again, in North America, you may not choose to eat certain, some of these things, but when we go overseas and we're being served, we really should be trying everything or eating everything off our plate, or maybe not going back for seconds or things like that. We should be aware of. Yeah. So I'll probably share my story of how reacting to a form of cultural hospitality that was different from what I was used to. And I guess it's not really my personal story, but from what I've seen. So, for example, I recently hosted a student from Japan, and I know in Japan, hugging is mainly for lovers, right?
Yeah.
So it's really inappropriate to do that, right? And the student was 14 years old, and my sister came over to visit, and she met him, and she really thought he was so nice that she gave him a hug, and you could see the awkwardness in the way not expecting it. So I didn't say anything to her then, and I don't think I told her about it, but I probably should, But that's one way, and I'm not saying that my sister is not educated, but it's just that she just wasn't aware, right? But it made him feel uncomfortable. I think he was fine because he seemed to know that this is what people do in North America, but again, if it could be avoided. So I tried my best, because he was so sweet, I tried my best not to hug him, but yeah.
It's an interesting thing, because if you're of two different cultures, which one do you adapt to? Do you adapt to the host, or do you adapt to the guest culture?
True.
So I thought that would be
true.
Interesting.
Because we're talking about embracing, right?
Yeah.
So him coming here should be learning about North American kind of culture, and that he's expected to be hugged or maybe kissed or something like that. He might be uncomfortable, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I thought that would be interesting to think about that. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, or even a story that you may have to tell about.
Well, in terms of embracing other cultures, I have a story. When I went back home over the summer, I got so used to the North American way of greeting, which really is just, for me, it's very cold, but I got used to it because Latin American culture is so warm. Here people will just wave or you pass by, you don't really stop if you're in a rush or whatever. But like I said, Latin American culture, you stop, you greet them properly, and then you go on your way. You don't just pass by a person. It's very rude. And so when I went back home for the summer, I was very used to just not really greeting people properly per se, as it would be there, just kind of waving at people and going along or whatever. So when I saw my family, I went to visit my best friend's parents, and when I was leaving their house, I kind of just waved at everyone because they had other family members over, and I felt awkward saying bye to them properly because I was I haven't done this in 4 months. What do I do? So I just waved at everyone. I was like, okay, bye. Thanks for the food, whatever. And then the term for North Americans that people use in Latin America is gringo or gringa for a girl or a guy. And so I kind of waved by, and her dad was like, oh, you're becoming a gringa, you're turning all North American on us. I was like, oh no, I feel bad. So I went back and said bye properly. But that was I think the second day after I got back, and I kind of realized okay, I have to do this properly. Because, instead of, I guess they knew obviously I was coming back from Canada, but they expected me to just fit back back into their culture instead of embracing where I was coming from. And so I had to kind of, not that I hadn't done it before, like that's how I grew up, but because I got so used to here, like I had to adjust my ways and go back to how it was before instead of expecting them to embrace how I had gotten used to life here.
Right. And I think because you told a pretty interesting story, you know, that you came from that culture and you adapted to Canadian culture so quickly and went back and already kind of forgot, right? And people may want to know, how could you forget? You've grown up there all your life. How could you forget? But it's just that you've been immersed here for 8 months, right? So you went back to kind of what you knew. But the thing is, I wonder, because again, you knew what you should be doing. They probably expected that from you, but maybe if a North American friend came with you for the holidays, maybe they wouldn't expect the same kind of treatment. So
that's true.
That is true.
Yeah.
I have another interesting story to share. Not back from home, but like over summer, I visited some Indian families here with my dad. So when I went there, I felt awkward to just going to all 15 people sitting in the room, going to all of them one by one and greeting them. So I just greeted everyone together and everyone was staring at me and what's wrong with you? That expression for almost all of them, or at least 10 people out of those 15. And the strange thing was, it was when all of them were living in Canada in about like 10 or 15 years or something.
Right.
So, but even then, when they think that it's a cultural get-together or everyone belongs to one culture, you're supposed to behave the way that culture expects you to be.
Right.
And they might feel bad about it, or they might feel that, you know, you're turning North American or you're forgetting what your roots are. But then I think it goes both ways. You have to
also embrace exactly. And understand that, again, maybe when they came, maybe they were older, so they kind of and they came at a time maybe when there weren't as many of their people around, so they kind of stuck really close to their traditions. But you, being exposed to many different people here, you know that you are going to change, and to kind of understand that as well too, right? I'm not saying to forget where you're from and your culture, but I think people need to realize that we are going to start getting mixed up.
I think it's more like in terms of embracing and expecting people to kind of adapt to the culture that they're in. I feel like it's more in traditional cultures, they expect foreigners or whatever to kind of take on their culture. And because there's not so much diversity in more traditional cultures. It's very much just that culture.
That's true.
But more like in North American, like especially you can see it in Canada, like there's so much diversity. So people have kind of gotten more tolerant and used to accepting other ways of greeting or cultures and stuff like that. So I think it's just that difference between like traditional cultures that are very closed within itself and people that have a community that is very thriving on diversity.
So it's like the monoculture kind of thing where they just have that one knowledge of culture, and so they just base everything on that, and everyone else is a foreigner.
Right.
So
and to kind of go back to your point, right, about so again, Canada's maybe not such a good example because again of the diversity that's here, but is it the responsibility of the host or of the guest to adapt, right? If I went to Japan, am I expected to be a certain way, or would they accept that I'm different?
I think that it depends on what country is, I guess, has more exposure to different cultures. Because I think that from your example, Candace, since you've been living in Canada and you are like Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidadian, you are more exposed to different cultures and everything. So you're okay with adapting to comfortably and easily to different cultures. Maybe the Japanese student is capable of adapting as well, but maybe because we're used to changing ourselves through diversity in different cultures, that we're perfectly fine with it, and so we just want to accommodate to other people, I suppose.
To make them feel comfortable.
To make them feel comfortable, to feel welcome to, and understand that Canada is a diverse country.
As we're talking about cultural hospitality, and we've been talking about embracing different cultures in respect to hospitality or whatever it is, the thing that we all need to understand or we have to be open about is like if you're a Canadian and you're hanging around with just Canadians, or you're with any other culture and you prefer being with just your culture, you try to make a rigid thinking of about, okay, this is the way you're supposed to greet people or the way you're supposed to react to different things. But in today's age, I think one should try to globalize and keep their mind open and try to learn about different cultures. And whether you're a host or a guest, or you meet just someone in the mall or in your university, in your class, whether it's the person sitting next to you, but if you try to learn, it's just your personality that develops. And by learning about different cultures, you can help the other person, and then you can definitely improve your own thoughts. And
I could not have said that any better than that. But yeah, that's exactly what we are aiming towards. So I really could not have said that any better. So, well, we would like to thank Sukhman and Sarah for being on the show today. And I hope that we left you with some pretty thought-provoking points about cultural hospitality today. And thanks for listening to our show, and do tune in next week.